It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to April the 14th, tax day tomorrow. Do not forget, this is the Start Spreading the News program. I am here, Paul Semendinger, with the great E.J. Fagan in just one moment. First time we've been together on this show in weeks. Last week we had a technical issue and we couldn't get on. And we're here, we're back, we're live, and it's great. But before the show, I just have to tell you, one of the greatest things ever happened in the history of my writing career. I don't want to say in the history of my life, because that would be overstating it to the extreme. But as you know, this program is brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia Publishing published the great book, Roy White, From Compton to the Bronx, that I wrote with Roy White. And as they were talking in the bottom of the sixth inning on the Yankee game tonight, David Cone said, hey, you know, speaking of underrated Yankees, Roy White was one of the great underrated Yankees, and he wrote a book, From Compton to the Bronx. I'm paraphrasing, but two different times he said, I highly recommend it. David Cone has read the book. That is so cool. He highly recommends it. I'm on cloud nine. I'm getting emails all over the place, including Marty Appel, the great Marty Appel, who said, they just plugged your Roy White book twice tonight and said highly recommended. So, I mean, listen, when you're an author, these are the things that put you on top of the world. And speaking of great authors, one who has been reviewed many times, including by the great Tevi Troy, here he is, your friend and my friend too, E.J. Fagan.
Paul, congratulations. It's very cool. Wonderful external validation. I wasn't watching live. I'm going to go back when we're done here and try to rewind. Do you remember what inning it was?
Bottom six.
Bottom six. All right, I'm going back to the bottom six after this and checking it out. That is very, very cool. Hopefully you sell some books as a result. I'll say, my book has not been shouted out on the Yes Network, but has been shouted out here many times, The Thinkers, The Rise of Partisan Think Tanks, and the Polarization of American Politics. But I think yours is cooler. Good job, Paul.
Yours is definitely smarter. You could take the combined intellect of all of the books I've written and compare.
Is it smarter to sell a book that sells fewer copies, to write a book that sells fewer copies? I don't.
Yours
I don't
is
think
more
it
academic. Let's.
Sure.
I'm writing about baseball and things like that. You're writing about philosophy and politics. And
one of these days they will let me write about baseball. Right now I am not allowed to do that. But maybe one day a very old Michael Kay will shout out one of my books on the air. I'm sorry, very old David Cone. Right now we're recording in the seventh inning, bottom of the seventh. Austin Wells is at the plate, 2-2 count, 2 outs. Aaron Judge has hit a nice little single through the hole. Ben Rice walked. The Yankees hopefully can add some insurance runs because that bullpen needs it.
Yes. And, that Judge guy, I got to be honest, single.
I think he's kind of good. Pretty good.
The guy, he just has no power. I mean, Jazz Chisholm homer tonight. Trent Grisham hit homer tonight. Austin Wells homer tonight. Ben Rice homer tonight. But that Judge guy, all he can do, he's just a singles hitter.
Yeah, you don't think of him as a guy who wins batting titles, right? But Aaron Judge was, I think, second in batting average last year. Did he ever actually win the batting title? No, he never actually won it. But he's batted 322, 311. I mean, Aaron Judge could easily bat 350 one of these years, and it wouldn't shock me one bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Obviously, for anyone who thinks I'm being serious, I'm just being a little facetious.
Well, I'll say, I mean, Aaron Judge is not currently leading the American League in slugging percentage, which he was for the first few weeks. I was going to say maybe it's Ben Rice. It's not Ben Rice. I checked, but that Aaron Judge is he's in a bit of a slump for Aaron Judge. His OPS has dropped to a mere 1,200, and he's only still carrying the team.
Correct. So, hey, EJ, we haven't really talked since the season began.
No, not at all. No torpedo bats. None of the fun stuff that we've had to discuss.
Correct. You had a great article on torpedo bats. If you haven't checked out EJ's Substack, you ought to. But what's your general overall feeling about this team?
I think it's fine. Yeah, I think this team clearly is hurting from the loss of Luis Gil and Gerrit Cole, and frankly, beyond that, they've Clark Schmidt. I mean, Marcus Stroman not even able to fake a 4.5 ERA or something like that. JT Brubaker breaking his ribs. I mean, you can tell this is a team that has 5 starters on the IL, including a recent Cy Young Award winner, and so it'll be nice to have Schmidt back. That's not going to solve all the problems, and I think that there's clearly a need for starting pitching. Carlos Carrasco was enough for them to give him a solid start today, but I think he's clearly not a member of a contending starting rotation. I don't think Stroman ever will be again. And so you're short a pitcher, basically. I mean, maybe Luis Gil comes back and gives you that guy, but you really are not going to be able to go into the playoffs with Carlos Rodon as a number 3 starter or something like that, right? I mean, even Schmidt, maybe you're okay with him as a number 3 starter, but they really are short a pretty good starting pitcher. And I just don't think it's coming anytime soon. Like I don't think this is a matter of, on the podcast yesterday, on the Bronx Beat podcast yesterday, you mentioned that one of the problems is the Steinbrenners are cheap. Maybe that'll be the case at this trade deadline. I just don't think anyone's moving anytime soon. You look at the standings, there's no kind of obvious teams with a bunch of starters falling out of it. The Marlins are above 500, or at least were entering today. The Brewers climbed back to be above 500. No one's selling their starting pitching right now. And so the Yankees are going to have to get by with what they have and kind of fake it. And it helps that they have the best offense in the league by a mile. And they're going to have to get by with slugging their way to victory until something changes with the starting pitching.
Correct. Just for clarity, and that was a great Bronx Beat podcast. I highly recommend it. You can listen to that by going to EJ's Substack or going to Start Spreading the News. It's linked there. That was our 2:00 article today. But to clarify, I don't think Steinbrenner is necessarily cheap. I think he sets a budget that at times is unrealistic. Not because I think he's right when he says you don't need a $300 million payroll. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. But when you don't pay smart, when you don't manage your money well and you overspend in all sorts of areas, well, then you need to go above that threshold in order to make things happen and to get the quality players you need.
I'd frame it a little bit differently. I think that the problem is not that I think he did that, right? Like, I think the Yankees have a lot of dead money in the books, and Steinbrenner increased the payroll to allow the Yankees to go and get like a max free, right? But when Gerrit Cole gets injured and Luis Gil gets injured, the marginal benefit of opening up a little bit, opening that budget up a little bit is high. And Steinbrenner has been very firm with his budgets. So he says, this is the budget for this year, and it's been about $300 million the last couple of years. We don't know the exact number. And the Yankees have felt very hamstrung to finish filling out their roster or, go replace an injured player or something like that. In a way that I just think is bad business, right? I think that
we're saying the same thing, 100%.
Right. And so, for example, Jose Quintana was a free agent when Gerrit Cole was not looking great, looking like he was heading toward the IL, and Luis Gil was not looking great. And at the time, it wasn't certain. You weren't sure you're going to need anyone, and you still had 5 starters in theory, right? And not even including, at the time, Clark Schmidt was injured. So you had 5 starters, and Carlos Carrasco was your depth starter. And Quintana was just a step above Quintana, right? He's a guy who was really effective over the last couple of years, pitched 170 innings with a 3.75 ERA, right? Just guy who can give you a bunch of average innings. And they need that. Like they needed someone to go out, go and pay $10 million for some veteran who's been waiting around for a job. And all those guys signed, and they signed basically while the Yankees were in decision mode. And I think it's really going to cost them. I think they could use a Kyle Gibson. Lance Lynn ended up retiring, but I wonder if they could have had him for $10 million. And it just felt like the budget wasn't there, that the Yankees weren't willing to do that until they kind of saw, whatever, if they're getting insurance money for Garrett Cole or something like that. I hope that the trade deadline, it's less of a problem when they know that they're in it and that they know they need a starter, but you got to get there. I still think the Yankees are the best team in the AL East. I think the Red Sox and Orioles have looked kind of awful. And so, it could be worse than the Yankees right now. I still think that they're contenders, but you got to get there, and it would help to win a couple more games because you're throwing out a more legitimate starting pitcher. Now that Stroman is hurt, and I don't know if they've lost faith in Stroman. Apparently the knee injury isn't super bad, and so he might be back kind of soonish. If he can pitch at all. I think he's done. I think they should cut him when he's healthy. But I hope that this is, if there is a guy out there that you could go and get, not a great starter, right? Somebody who's probably a little more expensive than he should be, because that's who might potentially be available. I hope they can go out and get him. I just don't think they will. I just don't think that guy's out there. I've looked. There's really not.
And trading wise, EJ, I don't know if they have. What do they have to offer?
Well, so I think for someone like that, someone like a Jose Quintana, I don't think everybody has something to offer for a Jose Quintana, right? It's not that expensive. A Sandy Alcantara, then we got to kind of talk about some guys, and they have guys they could trade. It just might hurt, right? It might hurt to trade George Lombard Jr. It might hurt to trade, Cam Schlittler or something like that, right? They made the Jazz Chisholm trade last year with Augustin Ramirez. They have a couple of guys very similar to Augustin Ramirez. So I think they could make a trade if guys are available. I just don't think they're going to be available for 2 months. And so you got 2 months where you have to piece together a rotation where you're burning out your bullpen. That's not good. You just got to hope that, someone can fake it, that Will Warren can maybe go a little bit deeper into games, or that Carlos Rodon can at least give you last year's version of himself, whereas he hasn't done that so far. I don't think the Yankees have seen a lot of gains from their defense yet. You would expect that they have a really good defensive team that they could bail out some of these starters, and they just haven't really done it. They haven't really bailed out their bullpen all that often. There's a couple of guys in the bullpen who got a little unlucky with batted balls. Maybe that changes. But you gotta have some. You have to fake it until you can add guys, or until Luis Gil comes back, or both. And I wish they had a little bit more foresight, because I just don't think there's much that Brian Cashman could do. Even if Steinbrenner said, "Here's your money, go figure it out." Like, I don't know who's going to be out there.
This isn't the time, right? Right.
Right. Exactly. The time was 4 weeks ago. Right. It was 2 weeks with spring training winding down. You saw that your depth was really hurt. I think we said on the show, like the Yankees should go get Kyle Gibson, even if Kyle Gibson's not that impressive. That kind of player is where they're really short right now. Stroman coming back. I mean, I maybe Stroman becomes that, slightly below the replacement level guy. But he didn't look like it when he was pitching, and he looked like he had nothing. I mean, he was nibbling 5 inches outside on the outside of the plate, trying to get batters to swing at stuff they clearly weren't going to swing at, and then coming in with an 89-mile-an-hour sinker. We have this concept of replacement level, right? The idea that replacement level is what you could expect a player. You just call up random guy sitting at AAA, guy who's cut because the team doesn't have a roster spot. You can pull that guy up, and whatever that ERA is replacement level. I think that the Yankees have a couple of those guys, like guys that I don't have any faith in, like Sean Boyle. But I think I could do better than Marcus Stroman, maybe better than Carlos Carrasco. And I think at some point soon you got to just try that, because you got to get innings out of somebody. The good news, I think, is at least in the bullpen, that they have some reinforcements coming in the bullpen. Jonathan Loáisiga is coming soon. Clayton Beeter is coming soon. Jay Cousins is going to be a little longer. He might be a long time. He's on the 60-day IL now with an elbow problem. So we thought hopefully a short IL stint, like a delayed spring training. He might be out for a while. He will be out for a while. He might be out for a very long while. But you got those guys in the minors you could call up. You have a couple of kind of optionable guys like Yeri De Los Santos in the minors. I think that's that's what you got to hope for. You got to hope for finding a little bit more in the fifth inning out of your bullpen, because Will Warren, Carlos Carrasco, Carlos Rodon, they can't go third time through the order at this point. I mean, that's Rodon got
when you don't have a starting rotation.
Yeah, and luckily for us, like we got Max Fried, and Max Fried looks like Max Fried. It looks great. I wish Carlos Rodon would at least, if he could pull off like a 3.8 ERA, then like a lot of these concerns go away. But I don't know, man. Like people just rocket the ball off of him. I mean, he'll strike out 5 guys and then allow a 2-run home run. Like it's the same thing we saw last year, same thing we saw in the playoffs. And I think, the numbers here for Rodon kind of got a little lucky last year, at least in the first half. And that concerns me. That said, I'm looking at his numbers right now. He's got a xERA of 3.22. So maybe he's just been a little unlucky. I don't know. We'll see. But I that's what I'm concerned about. And I wasn't during the offseason. The Yankees, before they trade Cortez, had like 7 starters, and you're going like, you're great. This is wonderful. We have starting rotation as a strength, and it's not a strength for many teams. I think the good news, if you can call it good news, is that like half the rotations in baseball have suffered a ton of injuries. Like the Cubs just lost Justin Steele for a season to Tommy John, right? So like there's a lot of guys out there kind of in a similar boat. And Major League Baseball starting pitching in general has collapsed. Offense has collapsed, right? So the Yankees are allowing runs. That's not normal. That might just be the weather. We'll see. But you've seen offense tick down even more from last year, despite torpedo bats, despite all that kind of stuff. And which kind of makes the Yankees offensive performance kind of fun, kind of special.
I've made the point, and I think with what you've been driving at is, for a long time, the Yankees seem to be reactive rather than proactive. When there's a move that people like you and I and other fans, I'm not saying we're seers or anything like that, or like we're more brilliant, though I think sometimes we are, than the people running the team. You just say like, boy, they probably could use a third baseman this year. And, next year and the year, they don't really seem to have an outfield this year. Like they could really use a left fielder. And the Yankees don't seem to do that. And then it becomes a problem, and then they try to scramble to figure it out. I would rather see them be a little bit more aggressive, as we were talking about with starting pitching. You're starting to see that there's some real apparent weaknesses. And look, Clark Schmidt's got a history of being hurt. Luis Gil has a history of being hurt. It's not like, well, we got 5 guys and they're all pretty good. No, you had a guy who's used to being hurt or often hurt, another guy who's often hurt, Carrasco, who hasn't been good in a decade, Stroman, who's been worse every single year, Warren, who could be good, might be good, but has never been good yet, Rodon, who always seems to implode, and Max Fried. That's not screaming. We probably shouldn't look to bring in some other pitchers.
Yeah. I mean, I think they should look to bring in other pitchers. I think that the circumstances they find themselves in now, I think, are mostly just really terrible luck on their part. Just bad timing of when the injuries occurred. A lot of injuries, like one of their depth starters was JT Brubaker, who I think is like potential to be kind of nice. Gets hit with a comebacker in like his first spring start and breaks 3 ribs. Right. That's like, that in another world, JT Brubaker's on the team right now and throwing sinkers and whatever. Garrett Cole going down with Tommy John surgery, Luis Gil. I think and if Cole and Gil happened, someone just said I hit a double. Goldschmidt. If that had happened a little bit earlier in spring, then they could have reacted. I think they just kind of got caught flat-footed. Now, I think that if I were Cashman at the time, I would have made the Kyle Gibson move out of, reducing
due
risk.
Diligence.
Right. Like, you say like, Carlos Carrasco, we need an upgrade over Carlos Carrasco as a depth starter. And they didn't. Maybe that was a money thing. Maybe, who knows, right? But if it happened 2 weeks earlier, they could have. And,
I still don't think they would have.
I think maybe not. Right?
I think Luis Gil getting injured was no surprise.
Well,
same thing with last year.
I don't agree with.
And then they get hurt the next year.
no team in baseball is going to take the guy who won the Rookie of the Year and observe that he just had a big innings jump and just say, well, he's probably going to be injured, right? Like no one bets that way. The Red Sox just signed Garrett Crochet to like a massive extension in a very, very similar situation to Luis Gil. So I don't think that's the issue. I think as soon as he goes down, then you start moving things.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't sign Luis Gil to a contract. I'm saying rational thinking says there's a good chance he gets hurt this year. He threw a gazillion innings last year after
I think they entered spring training with the right amount of depth, more depth than they needed. Right? They were talking about trading Marcus Stroman, deep into spring training. That was the first, I mean too, but like that. That's why no one took him. That was the controversy early in spring training. But they had Will Warren as their next guy up. They had Stroman as their 6th starter, Warren as their 7th starter, Brubaker as their 8th starter, and Carlos Carrasco as their 9th guy, basically, right? And now their 9th guy is their like 3 guy, right? And so that is, I think, just it's baseball, right? This just happens. And to me, the sin is not going into spring training, observing that you have some guys who might be injury prone, so you need depth. They had depth. The sin is not acting during spring training when there were a few guys, free agents out there who would have been better than replacement level. I mean, you can't go back and undo it. There's not much you can do about it now, but that to me, if I were pointing at the moment, it's like, like March 15th, Brian Cashman should have been like hedging his bets and bringing in guys, paying them whatever they need to get there. And that's what they didn't do. That said, like, there's a lot of teams in baseball that have had their seasons derailed by having 7 starting pitchers go down. Like that's just the thing that happens. The Yankees haven't had that happen yet because they've hit 1 million runs. And I do think that they deserve a little more credit than we were giving them this offseason, myself included, for the hitters that they've assembled. I mean, none of us had Ben Rice like in our plans before Giancarlo Stanton got injured. And Ben Rice has a 1,000 OPS or more than
Ben
that.
Rice, and he hit a home run tonight. He's looked great.
Yeah.
Let me talk about a different player. We'll go a little negative, and then we'll talk about some of the guys who really impressed us.
Sure.
Anthony Volpe. I'm looking at the box score right now. He's 0 for 4. His batting average on the season is .211. His on-base percentage is .313. It's not like he's your number 9
That's above. I believe that's above average on the season.
What's that?
I mean, I have no qualm. Volpe has been a well above average hitter this season. Right. I mean, it's coming in a low batting average, high home run way. .313 on base is an average on base. I really do think, and we've had this kind of conversation before, and it's not just you. Like, I really think that people need to calibrate their expectations based upon what modern hitters are doing. And if I just go right here to the average hitter in the major leagues right now, the average batting.
Right, so hold on.
For a major league hitter.
Where are you finding that? Is that on Statcast?
So I'm on Fangraphs right now.
Okay.
So this is Fangraphs 2025 season. You go to leaders and you click on league. The average major league hitter today is hitting .234, .312, .381. Did I freeze up there?
Yeah, for a second, but you're back.
Okay. .234, .312, .381. .234 average, .312 on base, .381 slug.
All right, so he's above slugging. He's at .474. His on base is average, and his batting average
is Gold Glove shortstop. And he's a Gold Glove shortstop, right? Like to me, like I think Anthony Volpe is a success story this season. I wrote in an article earlier this week. He's hitting a lot like his 2022 self, which was a low average, high power makeup. And I wouldn't be, and that's kind of what he tried to do in his rookie season. It didn't work that great. I think, one thing difference between now and his rookie season, he's taking more walks. And so I think that could work. Also, it's early in the season, and heading into tonight, his batting line was incredible, right? It was .226, 333, 509, right? And it's early in the season, so you go for 4 and you like all your stats.
Yeah, right. It kills you. Right.
So like I don't Volpe, I'm not worried about. And again, his defenses look great. Statcast thinks his defense look great, has been great. Volpe's been I think a huge improvement over himself, which was already a solid player. There's some other players who are struggling that I think I'm a little bit more concerned about, but again, it's early, so like whatever. Like Cody Bellinger is struggling.
Austin Wells, 208, 278, 479. Of course, he homered tonight.
Yep. Those numbers are, I believe, before tonight, right? So
that's right as of right now.
Yeah. Right. So he came in with a 712 OPS. He is now a 757 OPS. That is an above average batting line. Right. Like again, like the standard is really low. Like major league hitters suck right now. There's a reason why they're trying weird bats and stuff. Because it's really bleak out there for hitters. It's also been cold, which favors the pitchers. So like I would say like for basically all of this, like not just the Yankees, but like all the league wide stats, like give it a little bit of time. The season started
it's April,
absurdly early, and they played in really terrible conditions. And it's low sample, and he still has a 757 OPS. Like if Austin Wells has a 757 OPS on the season and plays defense as well as we think he's playing right now, he's one of the best players in the league, right? Like I mean I don't know what to tell you about. Like no one, what Rice and Judge and Trent Grisham are doing is rare.
Do you think Trent Grisham can continue?
No, God no. I mean, I won't talk about being early. Trent Grisham's batting 340, right? Like. I think Trent Grisham is closing his eyes and swing, and good for him. He's connected with some home runs. That's not going to work forever. I wouldn't be shocked. I haven't actually looked at kind of like when in the county's hitting the home runs, but last year Trent Grisham had the thing where he took every first pitch, and so maybe pitchers are just throwing it right down the middle first pitch, and he has adjusted and he's going to hit it. His end of the season numbers might look pretty good at this point because he started off so hot, and even if he kind of goes back to being his old self, those couple of weeks he can't take back, and that might actually be very good for him. I believe it's a contract year for Trent Grisham. And so like, I think it's smart that they keep playing him. He's hot. Do I think this is going to continue? No, no. But maybe he's a little bit better than we expected. Maybe he's a 750 OPS playing a solid center field, right? As a backup outfielder. That's really good. And so like, I'm not too worried about, I don't think they're dumb to play the hot hand, but he's clearly the hot hand, right? He's going to cool off at some point. Unlike, say, Aaron Judge, maybe even Ben Rice could be 1,000 OPS. I wouldn't shock me at all, right? He's done in the minors. But Trent Grisham, if he gets to 800, I think I'd be very, very happy.
Yeah, I don't think he will. But all right, so it's the ninth inning in the Yankee game. The Yankees are up 4-1. There's nobody out. Yep. Devin Williams is in. Yeah. I mentioned on the Bronx Beat podcast last night that I think it seemed like something clicked in his last appearance, but Bobby Witt Jr. singled to start the inning, and he's now facing Vinny Pasquantino, and Pasquantino just popped out, so now there's one out. Are you concerned?
And I'll say I saw that was a weak single by Bobby Witt.
I'm just seeing what Statcast is saying.
Yeah. Like Statcast had that single as what's the expected? Okay. It was a 79 mile an hour exit velocity, but had an X batting average of 97%. So it was a bloop single. Look, I mean, like I'm not worried about Devin Williams. He's got a track record. He had a baby 2 weeks ago, and I think that now that I have gone through that experience, I don't think I could pitch in the major leagues. After 2 weeks, and frankly, I think it's insane that Major League Baseball players like have like 3 days of paternity leave and then go back to traveling, let alone going back to work. But I think that Devin Williams has a track record. Unless he is injured, he will probably revert to that track record.
I think so too.
Again, and he hasn't pitched that much. They're like one of the games where he wasn't great was the extra inning game where he started with the man on second. That's not a fair way to judge any pitcher. I agree with you that start yesterday or 2 nights ago, the first couple of batters, he looked lost. He was not throwing strikes at all. It didn't look great. And then like then he like struck out the next 3 guys. And it was just bam, bam, bam. And
I think one was ground out, but yes.
Yeah. Like he looked like the as advertised. So I think Williams will be fine. Like I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little concerned, like new player, new team. This could be like a Sonny Gray situation for all we know. But he's got a track record. I think the Airbender is still good. Sal Perez just walked. So we got two
All right,
men
so
on
you're
right now.
you're a little ahead of me. I have Sal Perez with a 3-1 count. So you're
Okay.
watching it, or are you watching on Statcast?
I've got the game day feed up here, and I'm on commercial. Actually, I'm on not live. All right, now I'm on. But yeah, I'm looking at the game day feed. I think Williams will be fine. I'm encouraged by Luke Weaver. I'm actually really encouraged by Fernando Cruz. He's given up some hits, but Statcast thinks he's like the unluckiest pitcher in baseball right now. I think coming into tonight, he had an expected ERA like below 1. And then he had a great night tonight. So he has the best expected ERA in the major leagues right now, Fernando Cruz. So I think we can probably chalk it up to a small sample size and getting lucky. And of course, the expected ERA is also a product of a small sample size. So we'll see. But I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by Luke Weaver. I'm encouraged by Tim Hill. I think they have to figure out those middle inning guys a little bit. I think that once you get to the 7th inning, I'm kind of okay with the Yankee bullpen right now. Devin Williams, aside. But the Yohanders Gomez, the Ryan Yarbrough, the Ian Hamilton, Mark Leiter, not really crazy about them right now. That's what I am concerned about. And I hope that at least one of Loizaga, Clayton Beeter come back and can really claim one of those spots. And I think that would really make this feel like a much stronger bullpen and allow you to do the normal thing in the majors these days, which is like run your starting pitcher out for 5 innings. And still be able to lock it down. We have another out. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm ahead of you. We got 2 outs. Nope,
I got it. Pop out.
Yep. And we'll. That's a definitely just so good.
Let me give you my unpopular take. This is going to be my game summary on Start Spreading the News tomorrow. This is a highly unpopular take. So I'm wondering where you are. I sense you're going to disagree with me vehemently on this one, but we'll see, because you like fun stuff. And last night you called me the pessimist, which is so funny. But when it comes to the Yankees,
that's accurate, but okay, yeah.
I think it's true, and everything.
I think this episode tonight might be a good evidence of that. But yeah. Oh, we got to win. We have beaten the Kansas City Royals yet again. That's right. ALDS all over again.
Nice.
ALDS all over again.
And Williams made it a little.
Royals and the Guardians mixed up.
Hitting a walk, but not too much.
There was a blue single and a walk. He's fine. But yeah, good game. Good game, Yankees. All right. Slugging Yankees.
4 solo home runs. I'll take it. So here's my let me just make sure we're getting that quick hit up. Let me just text my son Ethan.
What fun thing are you going to object to?
Hold on 1 second.
So Paul is texting his son, and he's about to say that he doesn't like, I'm just going to guess, Aaron Judge as captain of the World Baseball. USA
That's
the World Baseball Classic. I've done this with you for long enough. Come on, I know exactly what you're going to say. Look. I get that Aaron Judge is that the World Baseball Classic has injured a couple of players, right? Jose Altuve, Mark Teixeira, most notably.
No. The guy in the Mets, they lost.
Oh yeah, Edwin Diaz. Yeah, right. That happens. Like spring training does that too. It will be fine. The World Baseball Classic is so much.
It's a terrible
so much
thing.
Fun. It's so much fun.
It's not fun.
I love watching it. Ohtani versus Trout.
No,
do you remember Ohtani versus Trout? That was incredible. I loved it.
That's the only at bat I've ever seen in the whole thing.
Well, you're telling me it's not fun if you're not watching. Like, come on.
I'm not watching because I don't care. It
feels like playoff baseball. You think about a random spring training game. It doesn't feel like baseball, right? They're not competing. The crowd's not into it. It's not fun. It's not something that you're really hanging on at every pitch. The World Baseball Classic, especially once you get through the initial rounds, you're hanging on every pitch. I don't know if you've seen the pools for the World Baseball Classic next year. I think a big opportunity was missed by the U.S. and Canada not being able to pool together. Judging by some of the USA-Canada hockey games recently, and we'll see where that is. But I'm excited. I am very excited. I think Aaron Judge is a great captain. One thing that's interesting to me is Aaron Judge often kind of like doesn't do spring training. Like, right, we've seen now a couple of seasons where he just kind of he's just not ready to go until the last week of spring training, and then he just turns it on, and then they had 3 home runs right away here in the second game of the season. And I wonder if he's going to be forced to kind of ramp it up a little bit early. But good for Team USA. I'm going to watch, and maybe I'll get a jersey. Aaron Judge is the best American player, so let's do it, right? I mean, to me, it's a little surprising he hasn't competed in previous years.
All right, so let me play this scenario out for you. Aaron Judge hits 389, 5 home runs, drives home an absurd 26 runs in the World Baseball. It's unbelievable. He is a cartoon, Bugs Bunny, whatever.
Sure.
Unbelievable.
And pitching is not as good in the World Baseball Classics. That would make sense. Yeah, that could happen.
And then September 19th, in the middle of the pennant race, he says, you know what? I just ramped up too early, baby. I'm tired. And he goes 2 for 36 with 1 double, no runs batted in, and the Yankees lose the pennant for 1 game. Are you going to be happy that Aaron Judge helped the USA win the World Baseball Classic? Or are you going to be frustrated that the Yankees lost the pennant?
If we can establish that causal ordering, no, I would not be happy. However, I don't think that's very likely. I think I don't think we've seen, and maybe someone's done a study of this, I don't know, like big slumps out of World Baseball Classic players in the past. I think it's fine. I also, I think Aaron, there's a very strong chance that any player who's committed to the World Baseball Classic today is not there a year from now because they get injured. Nestor Cortez, right, basically said I had to pull out. So I think that is. I think that if it could cause a problem, there's a good chance that Aaron Judge decides not to participate.
Well, I'd rather him just stick with the team. If a Yankee gets hurt in spring training, doing spring training things, you say, hey, that's baseball, that's life. If a Yankee, especially Aaron Judge, who's like the entire team, if he gets hurt because he's playing in some scrimmage, because I don't know why, because they decided to market something, whatever, that would be very frustrating to me.
I'll say this is a debate that comes up a lot in hockey because hockey has much more of a tradition of international play. They stop the season for all the players that go off and play in the Olympics. And it matters to the players. The players love it. They bargained for it as part of their collective bargaining agreement. They give away things to the owners so they get to keep going to go play in international competitions. And the NHL actually leaned into it this year, where instead of there was no Olympics this year, but they actually held a big tournament, which was awesome. Just absolutely was amazing.
That's when Yankees. That's when America played Canada, right? That's what that was.
Right. Yeah. I mean that was and it was intense. And even some of the other games were intense. And it's something that I really wish baseball would do, in part because I think just international competition is a lot of fun. I think it's great to see people wearing Team USA or Team Canada or Team Dominican jerseys. Baseball is much more international than football or basketball. Maybe not basketball, but because you have Dominican players and Venezuelan players, etc., Mexican players, Japanese players, Korean players, you can actually form these really, I think, nice national teams. And because unlike even hockey, it's a true all-star team, right? Baseball players can kind of just slot in and just kind of play. Maybe the double play combination needs to take a few extra ground balls, but besides that, you don't really need. You can actually put out a credible all-star team that could compete and make it feel like real baseball. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. I tell you, I love the WSBC last year. If I remember correctly, and Judge didn't go last time because he had just been named captain, and said he had a lot of young players in camp that he wanted to mentor instead of going to the World Baseball Classic. So I hope other Yankees go too. I hope Ben Rice is there. Let's go. Right, he could be a lot of fun. Okay, I hope I hope all of their pitchers don't go. No pitchers, please. But I'm okay with the hitters going, and I wouldn't be shocked if it helps them if it gets them ready for the season a little bit earlier. So yeah, but I think it's fun. Again, if there was like a real risk, if like his, back was hurting a little bit, I would say don't go 100%, even if you might normally play a game. But I think it's kind of fun. So yeah, and yeah, I guessed it. Totally saw through that.
Yeah, you're amazing. Now, Mike Whiteman jumped in. Let's get his comments. He loves the WBC, so Mike's on your camp. Mike also says the players love the WBC. Judge looked thrilled today.
There's something about putting on Team USA's jersey, right? I mean, I have a Team USA jersey from the 1980 Olympic team. That's incredible, right? And I don't blame players for loving that and wanting to do it. And I think it's also just a great showcase for the sport. Aaron Judge is the second most famous player in baseball. And I think that if you're going to showcase the sport, Aaron Judge should be there. Ohtani will be there. Judge versus Ohtani, that could be kind of fun. Judge and Mike Trout sharing an outfield, that could be kind of fun. Like, I think there's real opportunities there. And I think I'd enjoy it.
If you are the Angels and Mike Trout has been injured every year for the last 37 years, there's no way I let him go.
I mean, I think the healthiest season he's had in like 5 years was the World Baseball Classic season. I think Mike Trout deserves a chance to play meaningful baseball, and I don't think he's going to do that with the Angels, despite the Angels being in first place at the moment. And I hope he either gets traded by the end of his career or he gets every WBC to do something fun, because I don't think he's going to the World Series with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Wow. So here's my next unpopular take of the night. You just said playing meaningful baseball. Now Mike's going to disagree with me too, but I don't see it as meaningful.
You got to watch it. I'm telling you, like, if you watch the World Baseball Classic, it feels good. Like, it feels like you're watching playoff baseball. The crowds are really into it. The players are really into it. There's emotion. When Team Japan won, I mean, it was thrilling. And Trout versus Ohtani was a thrilling moment. And I can't think of many playoff moments where that happens. And I'll also say, other than when the Yankees go to the World Series, usually by the end of the playoffs, by the World Series, I don't really care. Like, I'm not emotionally invested. When it's Team USA out there, yeah, let's do it. Right. Like, all
right. So Mike's saying play it in November. What do you think of that?
It's when hockey plays some international tournaments after the season's over. And it's essentially players who don't make the World Series end up on their national teams. I don't think it's a crazy idea. I'd rather just stop the season for 2 weeks, right? Just play it in July, like the NHL does. They just say, the players who aren't on these national teams, you get 2 weeks off, and everyone else, you go play it. And to me, I think that's the best time to do it.
The All-Star game.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would, and that's what the NHL has done, is they don't do the All-Star game, the All-Star break on Olympic years. And then they kind of compress the rest of the season, which I don't want baseball to do, but they make it work. I think you'd have to cut games, frankly, because the season's 162 games, and I don't want to compress that even further. But I think you could hold a 10-day tournament in the middle of the season. I don't think you could do it in Japan. I don't think you could do it in, I think you'd have to do it in the States. Because otherwise you're losing multiple days to jet lag and flights and all that. But besides that, I think it's a great idea.
How about in Hawaii?
I mean, are there baseball stadiums in Hawaii?
I know Jim Bouton pitched in Hawaii. That was a part of Ball 4. They all like to go to Hawaii.
I'm sure the University of Hawaii has a baseball stadium. I think.
I'm just saying it's a little closer.
It's true. It's true. Well, here's the thing. A lot of Japanese players go from here to Tokyo for the WBC. That's what you would be doing. And so I think you could easily just hold it in San Diego and a bunch of places that you're not going to lose. You're not at risk of losing to weather. The dome stadiums or the nice weather places. So I'm excited. I'm ready for. I saw that announcement. I'm like, let's go! Right, come on, let's go. Aaron Judge, captain of the Team USA. Let's do it.
All right, crazy idea of the night, so that they can accommodate the Japanese players, and it's too far, and you don't want jet lag. Major League Baseball creates an island in the Pacific with a couple of domed baseball stadiums so that they can all play there.
Very expensive. What local city in the Pacific is going to pay Major League Baseball $1 billion for that stadium?
No, they're going to create an island. They're going to ship a bunch of dirt out there, and
that's something the Chinese government is currently doing in the South China Sea. It's not going well. It's not going over popularly. Look, I don't think I think the current iteration of the WBC is a lot of fun. It's a little awkward doing spring training, but for the most part, they haven't had I don't think they've had more injuries than you would guess given random chance in spring training games. So I think it kind of works. I think it's one of the more successful things Rob Manfred's done. Or is it Manfred? Wait, was that a late Bud Selig thing? I don't know. But
probably a late Bud Selig thing, but
I think it's a really cool thing that baseball does. And I think we'll talk about it on the show next year. And I think you should watch it.
Yeah, we will. And you and Mike Whiteman are ganging up on me. I get it.
And plus, you get. I also like to see. I like to see the weird teams. Let's go see team, Italy, team Israel, team whatever. Right? Let's see some of those up and coming places.
Some of that's convoluted, isn't it? Like somebody's great grand nephew's mother's brother's sister.
Yeah. No. So here's a fun story. So when I was playing my intramural softball league in college. We were playing. So what you would do is you would form a team of all of your friends. We formed a team of the debate team because that was what I was on. And you can imagine not the most athletic group of people for the pitch to yourself, slow pitch softball league. So we went up against, for example, the baseball team, or at the time there's no baseball team. You weren't allowed to play in your own sport, but the basketball team could form an intramural softball league, and the D1 Final Four or whatever it was of that year, soccer team could form their own team and kick our ass. But the best player on that in that competition was the bartender for the bar on campus. Forget his name now, but he was on WBC's Team Italy, and that guy could hit. I'll tell you, there was a couple of times where he cracked a softball, and it was damn, that is different league. Completely different league. I guess he must have played D1 in college or something. I don't know. But was technically on Team Italy. And I in fact did play and lose to him in an intramural softball game in 2007 or something.
That's pretty fun. So EJ, what else do we have here? We got about 10 minutes.
We haven't talked about the bats. Torpedo bats. Now it's a couple of weeks into the torpedo bat saga. We didn't react initially to them, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts now that we've had some time to reflect.
Yeah, I think it was a whole lot of nothing. That Stanton used the bat last year. Other players said they had seen the bats and used the bats. It worked for a weekend against the Brewers. I just think that, and the Yankees we're smarter the way we do it. We use analytics to make where the barrel. I think in theory the idea is a great idea. I think a smart pitcher then just changes his approach. I think it might help peripherally. I don't think it's. I
think it's probably something that helps on the margins, right? 5% better, right? Maybe. And that's in baseball. If you can get a 5% boost to your batting line, that's great, right? That's that's or even 3% boost to your batting line. That's 9 points of batting average, or whatever. 8 points of batting average. There's very few things you can do in baseball to do that, and I actually hope that the bats are successful at overturning some of the pitching advantages we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I just don't think it's gonna. And so you give 8 points. So Anthony Volpe hits 219 instead of 211. That's
not bad, right? That's reversing the last 5 years of pitching. But I think that's what we're talking about, right? We're not talking about, the bats allow you to launch 10 home runs a series, right? That's not what's going on. And we're not going to know till we have a lot more data.
Correct.
I would love to see kind of a, bat, not bat breakdown by somebody in a month or so. I think if you want to ask, why is Anthony Volpe suddenly hitting for power? The bat might be a part of it. Why is Paul Goldschmidt having kind of an interesting resurgence only against lefties? Maybe the bat's part of it. That's a possibility. I've also noticed that some of the bats, definitely the Yankees bats, you can tell some of them are more extreme than others. I think Chisholm's bat is the one that you can visually just tell the difference the most on. And, Chisholm, he's not having, I'm going to say, a great season overall. He doesn't have a great batting average, but he's hitting the ball, right? He's hitting home runs. Something to be to look on. He has one of the best barrel rates in the league this year, so maybe there's something going on there. But I think the freak out over bats was insane, right? How people were not just accusing the Yankees of cheating, but thinking that this was, a complete sea change in the way that, sports equipment is. I will say in most sports, relatively small changes to equipment can make a big difference. So like a new tennis racket comes out, there's innovations in the tennis racket, or there's an innovation in running shoes, or there's a new swimsuit that Olympic swimmers wear. Those can make like noticeable differences in highly competitive sports. When you're looking for like the tiniest little margin, I think something like we move the barrel the center of the barrel an inch this way can actually matter more than you might think. We just don't know yet if it does or doesn't. There might be downsides to the bat that counterbalance the upsides. And I do think that the idea of customizing a bat to a player makes more sense than just like half the players ordering the bat, right? The quote unquote torpedo bat, where I think it is clear that there's a difference. I also think it's clear that if you change your swing for the bat, that might be a more successful strategy than keeping your swing and then trying out a new bat. So it may be the case that because, you're a little bit, you can swing essentially a little faster and hit the ball a little bit higher up the bat, maybe whatever, right? Like I'm not a hitter. I don't know anything about this stuff. But I could imagine that some players really adapt to the bat and some players, there's just no change. I was watching a wonderful video that I highly recommended people the other day. One of the guys in the Savannah Bananas was taking batting practice basically with the bats and taking some exit velocity numbers and comparing. And he got about 2 miles per hour higher with the bat, with the off the shelf torpedo bat that he had. And other guys who were there with him were getting similar results. 2 miles an hour is not nothing, right? Like that's a significant change in exit velocity, but it's also not going to turn a bad hitter into a great hitter. It'll turn an okay hitter into an above average hitter, right? That's what you're talking about. But that matters, right? I mean, if Anthony Volpe is again a 740 OPS player, he's a 4 or 5 win player. That's incredible. And if the bat helps him get there, then I think it's a good thing. I think it's smart on the part of the Yankees, and I think every team in baseball is now just a couple of weeks behind. I think credit to the Yankees for figuring something that other teams didn't figure out.
Fair enough. I think in the end, it's the difference is going to be minuscule, if anything. But we'll see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, once or twice. I was once wrong. Was never wrong about the World Baseball Classic. I'm 100% right on that one. But EJ, it's all good. I mean, these are all just that there's going to be a right and a wrong because you can be able to prove it. Like the bats helped or they didn't help. Something like the World Baseball Classic is just an opinion. And if the world loves it, well, then I'm definitely in the minority of not really caring. But maybe you'll even get me to watch it next year.
There you go.
You have anything else?
I mean, we could talk about how Ben Rice is potentially emerging as a star. We'll see, right? It's obviously a small sample size, but so far, I think this is a significant improvement from last year. If you look at his numbers, like his, I ran the numbers in a blog post the other day. His barrel rate is more than double what it was when he was good last year, right? Not the full year, including the slump, but the 3 weeks where he made himself a leadoff hitter, hit 3 home runs. All of that is included there. He is just significantly better than that. And I think that is, a really good sign. Whether or not it lasts is a different question, right? The league might adjust back to him and might exploit the same thing that they exploited last year. But the starting point's higher, I think. So, like, if he was here last year and he went down, like, he's here. And now the question is, can the league bring him down to here? Can they, where's my camera? There we go. Can they bring him down to here? To there, right? Like where is he going to end up? And every day that he looks better, and today was another great day. Every time he hits a ball, 107, 110, I think he had 113 miles an hour the other day. My expectations like rise a little bit. My thought of where he's going to settle down eventually rises. I don't think it's 1,000 OPS, though. Again, he wouldn't shock me if he has a very, very good season. But the comparison before the season for me was Kyle Schwarber. I think Kyle Schwarber is a very reasonable place for Ben Rice to end up at, where you have a lot of power. You have the ability to take walks, kind of a lowish average. Ben Rice has a high strikeout rate, so that would make sense. Not a great defensive player, not a lot of value there. DH, you find a spot for him somewhere in the lineup. And to me, that's really good news. And the thing to keep an eye on is like, as Giancarlo Stanton gets healthy, what happens to Ben Rice? Where is he when Stanton is looming, right? Is he in a spot where like, if Stanton was healthy tomorrow, I don't think Stanton plays, right? Because Rice has been so good. Or Rice is playing, Paul Goldschmidt's been really good too. So it's hard to displace him. Does Stanton only play against lefties? Like that, I think that's a real possibility. And I think it's great news because if Ben Rice is a long-term hitter that you're happy with at the top of your lineup, so let's call it 850 OPS long-term, that changes the team's trajectory completely, right? It allows you to have another league minimum 26-year-old player in your lineup alongside Volpe and Dominguez and all these guys and Wells. And then you could go out and spend money on a pitcher or whatever, right? Like it really changes the outlook of this team. And the Yankees haven't had a young core in a very long time. They've had one young player at a time. And Rice is getting you just like a little bit closer to what I would call a young core. So it's exciting. I like the guy. I think he's like, I don't really care about where he went to school, but he's clearly a smart guy. When you hear him talk, he has a head on his shoulders. He clearly, I think, seems like he has good makeup. Like he's responding to pressure well. I think he saw whatever errors he made in the major leagues, and I think he made adjustments. And that's the sign of a real major league player and a real diamond in the rough. And every bad thing we've said about the Yankees scouting staff, development staff, like if you bring up another guy like Wells and Wells and Volpe, they were first round picks, right? And kudos to them for bringing them to the major leagues. That's not automatic. But Ben Rice was a find. The first find they've had since Brett Gardner. And I think that's just that could be a really significant thing for this franchise.
Great stuff. All right, EJ. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, there's this wonderful book. They talked about it on the Yankee game tonight. It's called From Compton to the Bronx.
So cool.
Troy White's autobiography, written with me. And David Cohn loves it. David Cohn did not say Paul Semendinger. A little disappointed. But they were just talking. They were just talking. And listen, he said it's a great book. He said you got to read it. So if you haven't read it, read it. If you have read it, buy another copy because why not have two? Why not have four? Buy one for every member of your family. And listen, this is one time when you should really get something for the extended family. All those people and your neighbors, the whole neighborhood. All right, my dear friends, all joking aside, hope you all have a wonderful week. EJ, it was great to be back on with you yesterday on the Bronx Beat. Great to be with you on tonight. This is the Start Spreading the News show. We'll be right back again with you next Monday night at 9 p.m. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you